Welcome back to the episode. Today is January 14th. We're going to chat about today is really just Michigan basketball, Pistons. They both kind of surprisingly only played like one game since the last time we were on, so we'll probably just really dive into both of those games and just discuss, what we saw. It also kind of feel they're both at like the similar point in the season of where they're uh, kind of peaking and maybe running into a little bit of turbulence. So we'll just kind of dive into that a little bit and just kind of see sometimes those types of things can work in your favor, as the season goes along and just kind of help you come back down to earth and make some adjustments to be a better team going forward. So it'd be interesting to see how both these teams are able to bounce back or not bounce back necessarily, but how they go from here after just kind of cooling off, so to speak, after the hot start. But we'll start off with Michigan. I think like them especially, was pretty much averaging win at, or margin of I don't know why I don't know what to call it. The margin of win margin, however much they're beating people by, was an average of like 20 to 25
Yes.
points up until
Yes. Good victory spread.
yeah, up until they had this little, road test against Penn State. And then got into a little bit of a shootout with Wisconsin. Wisconsin couldn't miss, and they ended up suffering their first loss of the season, which took the cap to Wisconsin. They played a great game, but yeah. That being said, just want to kind of just going to kick it over to you and just kind of see your thoughts on. We can dive into that game a little bit and just kind of see where things go from here when it comes to the season overall.
Yeah, I would chuck up this Wisconsin loss to kind of this the tough Big Ten schedule.
Yeah,
You never know what you're going to get at the end of at any given night. Sitting there looking at Wisconsin, I think they were sitting there at 11-4 or 10-4 when we played them. So obviously a fairly formidable team. I think they said they're like number one in 3 point shots attempts or shots made, maybe in the whole entire NCAA. So it's a real roll of the dice team coming in. You just had a tough win versus Penn State the game before that on the road. You rebound with Wisconsin coming in, and they shot the lights out. You look pretty damn good first half. Looked pretty much like it was going to be a route like we had been seeing. Um, Closing out the first half, he had a pretty cushion, like 8 to 10 point lead, and then that evaporated rather quickly.
yeah,
Win and a half on the ropes. Second half, they came out completely on fire, and it was just one of those things where we were matching them punch for punch. Just a couple of things didn't go our way down the end of the ball game. We do need to tighten up a little bit, tighten up from time to time. I personally think that last stretch of the game, call it the last 3 or 4 minutes, we settled for way too many threes.
yeah,
We were just kind of jacking up threes and hoping that one of them hit. I'd say jacking up in the sense of I don't think we fought hard enough to get an easier shot.
right.
Not all those were necessarily bad shots, but I never want to see 4 threes in a row. Like with the game on the line, you're going to get defensive stops. Let's come out and just get one. Just put your nose down. Let's get one. Let's get this free throw. Let's get some points on the board to kind of reassure this thing up. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway I have from that game is just the amount of threes they hit. Us kind of settling for threes when the game can push to shove at the end. A couple of maybe not calls on that tip slam goaltending. So all in all, I mean, I don't want to hit the panic button at all. I think you got another tough one tonight versus Washington. You rebound good on this one, and all's fair and love and war. You keep moving.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I pulled up the box score. They shot 15 to 33 from three. They had one guy go 5 for 10, one guy go 3 for 4, one guy go 4 for 8. I think when you just have guys just hot like that, there's not, unfortunately, not much you can do. And I think because I felt like there was a stretch where, like you said, we had that 8 point lead, but then we started almost trading like they hit a three, we go get a two. So like they just kind of were just like slowly just kind of like closing that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like we would go get a two, and then like a couple times we wouldn't get a stop, and the next thing you know, we're neck and neck. And yeah, I think it's one of those things interesting. Like I told you before we got on here, that Mara tip slam gets reversed. Probably end up tying that game, winning it last second, or winning it in overtime. I think it was like Michigan is looking like one of these basketball teams this year that even when it's like ugly, they can still just kind of like strong arm their way through some things and just really just kind of like brute force their way to keep to keep the game close, if they have to. So it's been interesting to kind of see these last couple games. Like I said, the Penn State game, they won that, by two, and it was really kind of like a struggle. I mean, it's probably the first time they scored less than like 80 in probably like a good like month and a half. And that's what you're gonna have in the Big Ten. You're gonna have some of these games, you're gonna grind it out. We talk about the style of play that a team like MSU plays, where they're going to make you, you know, kind of grind it out. They want to play more, a little more half court, where it looks like Michigan. I mean, I feel like Michigan can play half court. They can also slow it down. They can also, I mean, they also obviously you see they can kind of run teams out of the gym as well. And kind of like outscore people. They just have a lot of weapons, a lot of firepower. Rim protection is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of at a point to where one of these a loss like this, it kind of just it's good for you in a sense. Not to say that you ever want to lose, but like this is kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, we're not as like unbeatable as we think we are. We're not as bulletproof as we think we are. So it's definitely a lot that they can learn from that game. But like you said, it's nothing to necessarily panic over. I mean, like they hit 45% from three. We were like 32% from three. So you imagine a couple of those go down. I mean, you literally win that game.
Yeah.
That's really the difference of a couple of threes not going down. And yeah, I'll be curious to see how they respond tonight. Have to check out the highlights in the morning because they play at like 11 o'clock on the West Coast. But uh, I'll just be curious to see how a guy like Lindenborg kind of seems to be the head of the snake, leader of the team, how he kind of rallies everybody to shake off that loss and get back on the right track.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just gonna build off when you were speaking on how we want to play or our temp how versatile we are as a team. I do think we
Hmm.
can slow it down. I think what we want to do though, and when we are better, is when we're running teams out of the gym. I think
Yeah,
we have. I'm sitting here looking right now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven dudes scoring 10. No, six dudes scoring 10 points or more. Another two scoring eight. So that's eight dudes, nine dudes deep on the bench that we
yeah,
made it touch and go to, and that's when we were getting the rebound, kicking it out deep. Mora to Lindenborg, easy dunk, three here, three there, and I think we stand in that second unit of waves, and teams just cannot keep up. What I do think is when teams are hitting 15 threes like Wisconsin or just mucky up the waters a lot like Penn State did and just kind of
hmm,
when push comes to shove, who is going to be our basket getter? Who's going to be able to go get our baskets? So we're not settling for four straight threes on a row. Like I'm sure if you pull up that box score or the play by play, go look right around that 4 minute mark sub, it would say 20, 25 or 23-foot three miss, 21-foot three miss. Like it was
yeah.
pretty stagnant offense. So I think when it comes down to it, who's going to be the one that can make something happen? Is it going to be pick and roll with Lindenborg? Is Cadeau going to hit a three? Does McKinney have to come out and start, really putting his shine on? Or, I think that's going to be our real question is when we're sitting there in that 88, 89 game, 10 seconds left, 15 seconds left, who can we give that ball to make a play? Or let's back it up a little bit, 70-70, 3 minutes left in the game, and we maybe can't run out the gym like some people on certain teams. Are we who's our go-to guy? And I think that's what games like this Wisconsin game shows you is what we need to build on in order to understand all facets of how you win, not just beating the shit out of teams relentlessly. Um,
Right.
and, and I think it's kind of a search and destroy mission. So I still feel pretty damn good about them, but I think that's what we're here to find over this next stretch of games. If they happen to be close, is I'm sure Dusty May hopped in there with the game film and said, "Hey, like this series cannot happen. We lost the game defensively doing this, and this last 3 or 4 minute series here doing this." So, uh,
Hmm.
you know, the team is built well, though. It's just a matter of those type of games are going to happen. And if I'll be willing to bet you go look it up, teams that shoot 15 threes, or hit 15 threes in a game, probably have a pretty good win percentage.
For
But,
sure. Yeah, especially in college.
right.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and I just keep pointing to even how close the game still was. I mean, they needed every single one to drop that they got. Like, it was,
Mm-hmm.
one of those to where I mean, it just came out, the rims was it looked like the ocean for them. I mean, I'm still just kind of blown away. I mean, I think they no lie hit like 10 threes in like a span of like 8 minutes, like nonstop. They were just dropping. I mean, guys was, it was hitting them from NBA range. I mean, it was, hand in the face. It was like
Step
they just
back.
could not, yeah,
Yeah.
just couldn't miss. And then like you said, like Michigan was kind of trying to, go like band for band, whatever you want to call it, just kind of like try to go right back at him. But then, yeah, you had guys like Roddy Gale. He was 1 of 4. Trey McKinney, he was 1 of 6. And you kind of hit on the head too before we jumped on. You kind of said even now, probably could went went to the cup, draw some contact. Try to get to the line a little bit more. Get an easier bucket. But yeah, in the midst of all that and how, in the midst of all it could have quote unquote went wrong, you'll take a 3-point loss to a looks like a somewhat solid
Yeah.
Wisconsin
I mean, they
team.
won. They won last night on a buzzer beater again.
Mhm.
Another three. And then we can move on. Obviously, the Pistons run the time 10-minute hit
Yeah.
live stats brought to you by Chat GPT. Teams win 85% of the games in college basketball when they hit at least 15 threes since the year 2000.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So you're pretty much a shoe in at that point.
Hmm.
But no, I think you're back to the drawing board here on the other side of the country. Washington. Looking at it, they seem like a middle of the road pack. You know, a game you should be to get in your bag. And
Yeah.
I don't think you
Whether
said
that
this on here.
storm,
Yeah, yep.
whether
I
that
don't think you
storm
said
being
this on here,
road.
but I don't not to. I don't necessarily care about the number one overall seed too, but I definitely want to be competing for that Big Ten regular season championship. So I want to. You gotta gobble up these Big Ten wins while they're available. So you want to come back from this road trip 2-0 to keep pace with Washington or keep pace with Nebraska, Purdue State, even. Um, yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
but
Yeah,
no.
can't believe
And then
it's
we got
crazy
our
to see it.
beloved Pistons.
Yeah.
We'll actually be in the building this weekend versus Indiana Pacers. Also coming off a rather tough loss to the Clippers, 6-point loss at home versus the Clippers. I think they got us both times this year, if I'm not mistaken. I
You're
think they
right.
got us out west weeks ago when Kawhi dropped 40 or whatever he did.
Mhm.
But that being said, you know, uh, we got the Suns in between us now when we're attending the game. So kind of, I guess, state of the Pistons. What are you thinking? We're sitting here at 28-10, first in the conference, first in the division. Um,
Yeah.
Cade's sitting there like third overall in all our votes. We're looking good. You're kind of the darling of the league. But I guess kind of what are your state of the Pistons so far?
Been pretty good. Just get once you like hit the peak, up around 500. But now, you're in a situation where you don't have to run Katie to the ground, trying to make up, pick up games and make up ground to get into the playoffs. Now you can let a lot of those um, bench guys, role players get their confidence up, play a lot of minutes, play against some really good teams, in the process, play meaningful minutes, at that, to where I think they've just positioned themselves well. I think like last year it was a goal to, not, make the playoffs and they were able to avoid the play-in. I think the goal this year, especially with this start, stay within that top 3 seed, top 4 seed, just to guarantee home court advantage. 'Cause I think just while we've kind of watched them ascend here, I do still feel like they have some hurdles to overcome. Wasn't fun watching them. Not to dive into this too much of this, but it wasn't fun watching them not be able to win a home game last year. When they were in the playoffs. But I think Kate even said it. They've learned a lot, from that playoff matchup. It was great seeing them, kick the shit out of the Knicks and kind of get a little bit of get back. And it's just showing me that they've matured as a team. You have some guys that have taken some significant leaps. Just like Asar Thompson, having him healthy to start the season did wonder. Ron Holland's playing, he's better. You look at the box score randomly, and he'll give you 15, every fourth, fifth game. I can't believe I didn't mention Dennis Jenkins first because he's probably one of the more, impressive, leaps out of everybody. Duran, Isaiah Stewart. I mean, it'll be a travesty if Isaiah Stewart is not at least in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. Should better be on a all defensive team. I think him and Asar both. So got a lot of guys that are also helping out Cade. He's still, obviously giving his 27, 28, and 11 a night, but you got guys picking up the slack, and it's a collective effort. As much as we hear about how they might need to go get somebody that can get them 20 a game by themselves, I enjoy seeing them figure it out, just getting 15 here, 10 here, 18 here from different guys just showing up when they need to in order to get the job done. So yeah, Kid asked for a better start to this season. 38 games in, literally right at that halfway mark, and we'll see what they're able to do, from here on out.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of things you said, man. I think the team team in general, we have not been the healthiest team, and still finding ways to pull it out. And we're doing it kind of largely as a, Cade is obviously the driving force, but you get Cade kind of the driving force. Duran is also pretty stable. Outside of them, it's kind of a whoever's hot that night, whoever's can come in and play. You'll see Asar go off, whether defensively or offensively. You'll see Ron Holland, like you
Mhm.
said, drop 15 to 20 every now and then. Tobias to step up big. Karis LeVert to step up big. Duncan will very consistent, but he will have them big nights where he'll hit 5, 6 threes in a game. I
Mhm.
think, and then go way down the bench. You got Paul Reed. Can't sleep on Paul Reed.
B-ball Paul.
He's when Dern was banged up and Stu was banged up, I think a couple of weeks ago, he stepped in and had big time starter type roles a minute. So I think that is people who say, "Hey, let's trade the whole team away to get a dude that's more or less a household name." I don't think they pay attention to the game in and game out those type of players, and that's how cliche as you say it sounds. That's how championships are built. Players are going to go down, but things are going to happen. You want to have that depth. You want to have players that Duran goes down. Knock on wood for us. First round playoff game. We feel confident that Paul Reed can come in and play some meaningful minutes for us. That Stu can come in and play meaningful minutes, and it
Yeah.
and makes a difference. So one thing I'll say. Second thing I'll say is just the collection of um, Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland, Javante Green, and Jenkins. Them guys are all more or less putting up like 7 to 9 points, 4, 5, 3 assists. A couple rebounds. Those guys, I think, are cannot be aren't getting enough praise for just maybe the sacrifice that somebody like Jaden Ivey's making.
Yeah.
On a lot of teams, he would be highly, not say he's not, but we're not hearing about it, highly frustrated. Dennis
Mhm.
Jenkins making, great real estate agent money this year. Just not he's not making crazy NBA type money. Not hearing a lot about it. A lot of these players' hands are tied when it comes to that as well. I do get that, but they're all bought in one way or another, and I do think they're all about winning. And everybody will get their payday when time is right. But I think the collection of guys we have now, man, it's just the intensity they play with. I don't want to break the shit up. I think we should keep rolling forward
Yeah.
and try to add a small piece or two there without rocking the boat too much. Maybe.
Yeah.
Roll with this. With Cade, you got a shot. You got a chance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, like you said, they got guys just playing their role, and you don't really see this all that often either. In the NBA nowadays. I mean, just like a team of just, yeah, guys just filling in when they need to, executing at a high level, being selfless. We'll kind of see what happens here as we get down to the down into the second half of the season. And like you said, I'd like to see us keep at least a core, the core of this team together. And you know, buyout market, that's something we've never really, had an opportunity to be a part of, or at least be on the good side of. So there's a couple different ways I think can improve this team rather than like shipping the farm away for whoever. So I do think Trajan, I mean, he's been pretty adamant, not going to be doing anything crazy, not going to be, he's going to kind of just wants to see what we have in this core of guys that we've drafted, homegrown. He wants to kind of go the homegrown route and see what goes, see what happens from there. And I'm with that. More than fine with that. So
Yeah, no. Go Pistons. Go blue. I'm feeling good about both of them, man. We number 4 team in the college basketball, number 1 team in the East. Feeling good about it. We'll be back next
yeah,
week.
yep. And a good